Hello, everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Shawn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Great to be here and burning the ship with you.
Awesome, awesome. We're so glad to have you today. Go ahead and introduce yourself and the name of your business.
I'm Shawn Wells. I'm a biochemist, formulator, dietitian, sports nutritionist, and biohacker. I have a number of businesses. I have a business called Zone Halo that I do formulations for many companies in the industry, working on supplements mainly, but that includes beverages and cosmeceuticals, pet products, you name it. And also I have companies around intellectual property, working on new ingredients, new formulas that get used worldwide. I have a media company where I have my book, video series on the book, stage speaking, media like this that I do. I've done thousands of media interactions and events on TV, on radio, etc., and certainly all my social medias. And and then I have a number of equity holdings as well, where I'm chief science officer for many supplement and biohacking companies throughout the industry.
Awesome, Shawn. We got so much stuff to cover when it comes to your business. We definitely want to talk about those things. But before we get there, I want to talk with you a little bit about your journey, your story, and we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So, Shawn, tell us a little bit about your story.
Uh, wow. It's really one of just massive blessings, and I've thought about it a lot. That it takes a lot of hard work, passion, and dedication to get where I am. Period. The end. Full stop. And I'm also blessed and hit the lottery that I am where I am. Full stop. Because I do know a lot of people that have worked hard, that have been as passionate as me, and are nowhere near the level that I'm at. Whether it's, I believe wealth is time, energy, relationships, and then, yes, money. But really, those other ones are more important. And I can tell you that if someone's dying on their deathbed, money isn't going to do a whole lot. But those relationships you had, whether it's family and friends, which your friends are really the family that you choose, right? I mean, those are absolutely critical. And the energy that you have, that's my book is called The Energy Formula, because I think energy is one of the most important assets. What lights you up? What gives you energy? What makes you passionate? And for me, I was going to business school. I was obese. I was unhealthy. I had a very difficult childhood. And I stumbled into working out. I stumbled into the magazines and books at the GNC and at the Walden Books, and I went into the Arnold Encyclopedia, and I was reading all the cool bodybuilding magazines, and I was looking at all the supplements in GNC, and I was taking creatine that had just come out, and I was taking protein and all these different ingredients. Some of them worked, some of them probably didn't work, were a big waste of money. But at the same time, I was just so excited, so passionate. I believed in the placebo power of some of them, and then some of them really were effective, like creatine.
Mm-hmm.
And I had incredible body transformation that felt good, not only in terms of my physical health, but my mental health, which was really struggling at the time. I went to my doctor and I told him all about this, and I expected my medical doctor to say, cool, all of that's stupid, because this was like the mid 90s. And he actually, what was cool is it really wasn't about even the supplements or whether they work or not. He just looked at me and then he drew out this lifeline from 20, which was the age I was at the time, and to 80, and said, why not be happy between here and here?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa. At the time, I didn't have a Tony Robbins. I didn't have an Oprah. I didn't have an Instagram. I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have all these cool entrepreneurs that are like, doing this from out of nothing. I was in business school, and the whole idea is to, hopefully someday make 100 grand, get a BMW 3 Series, have a white picket fence like you have behind you,
Mm-hmm.
and live that life of like, you made it. And I just, as a kid, I had no idea what really making it means. I thought, yeah, I'll work 80 to 100 hours a week for the rest of my life and be miserable. But as long as I'm making a certain amount of money and driving a certain car and wearing certain shoes and clothes, then I guess I'm good. You have no idea. And so when he gave me the permission to pursue my passion, it really opened the door, especially for someone that's like really at the time for me, a medical doctor is like an authority, it's, and this guy was an older gentleman. I say older, he's probably my age, 50,
Mm-hmm.
51. So I was
Right.
like,
Right.
wow, like this guy is like, he's done it. He's at the highest of the high. Like I had at the time, I had no sense of like billionaires and multimillionaires. All that just seemed like fake TV stuff. Like to me, like, because I knew no one like
Right.
a doctor was as high end as it gets. And so I was blown away when he told me this and really took it to heart. And it set me down a path of like, okay, I'm going to finish up my business degree because I know there's value in that. And I was going to the #1 business specialty school at the time, Babson College. And I graduated magna cum laude, but I went back to school so I could pursue nutrition and biochemistry. Got my master's at UNC Chapel Hill, which was my dream school for that. And I became a registered dietitian and then a chief clinical dietitian working in hospitals and nursing homes, and became a certified sports nutritionist, got my fellowship in the International Society of Sports Nutrition. And all the while, I had to work clinically to pay bills.
Mm-hmm.
I was working for all these different companies as writing white papers, working on message boards at the time. For anyone that only knows social media, message boards was kind of the precursor, maybe the Reddit of the day.
That's right.
And I was working on message boards and putting out information, helping these companies. I was working on formulas after a little while, and then I was attending shows like the Arnold and the Olympia, helping them out at their booths. I was working at GNCs and vitamin shops, like on my weekends and holidays. My dream was to get into supplements, and eventually I stumbled into my dream job, which was director of R&D at Dymatize, which was a huge supplement company, a global supplement company. I helped them go to sale in about 3 years to Post Foods. It was a huge $425 million acquisition, and I was living my dream. I made it all happen, and I can tell you that doctor who gave me permission had a lot to do with that path, almost everything to do with that. And had he not been there, I would have not gone down the road I went down. So I, to this day, think about the power of words often.
Yeah, that is amazing transformation that you had going from having a troubled youth time and being able to transform into where you are. But as you were sharing your story, I found a critical part. You said you were able to stumble into working out. It seems like that is when the spark was initiated. And can you elaborate a little bit more on that part of the story so people can recognize when that opportunity is presented and that door is open and you bust through it? Tell us a little bit how you stumbled into it and how you kept it going.
Yeah, I had grown up, like I said, the childhood was difficult at home, at school. I was bullied quite a bit because of my weight. I was not only morbidly obese, but I had a big butt, and kids just made fun of that a lot. It's even tougher as a boy having large legs and rear end, and there was all kinds of bullying around that. I had a very low self-esteem. I got rejected by girls. I definitely didn't get to play sports. I had to become the class clown to even just, get into conversations and have any shred of dignity. And when I started working out and seeing a transformation in my body, my belief in myself skyrocketed. I didn't believe I was ever going to become Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I believed that I could actually change my body, change my outcome, change my path. Like, you're right. Like, that working out, and really, like, sometimes when you're first working out, like, you're going up in, like, weights almost every workout, right? It's like I'm curling 15-pound dumbbells, and 17.5, then 20, then 10, it's like, and that's addictive. And you're, as a kid, you're like flexing in front of the mirror and the whole thing. And to see that transformation, to see the weights going up week to week and my weight going down, to hear from people, when I went back home on college breaks, like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, this is, that feels so good. And people wanted my advice on the supplements to use. How are you doing this? Tell me. And of course, I had read hundreds of magazines. And so I was also like a source for information, highly biased information, but at the time it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really proud of that. And it felt good to feel good for the first time in my life.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing that, because as you were talking about it, I saw that as a point where I just wanted you to elaborate on it, because you've done some great things. And I thought, based off what you shared, that was one of the catalysts. So now in your story so far, you just were able to help with the acquisition or merger for the $500 million almost. What happened for you after that?
Well, then I became known as the formulator that helps get companies sold.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that was my opportunity. And I was definitely working. If anyone knows what those 3 years look like, this was after private equity had come on to Dymatize, and they were looking to do the flip to a strategic. So I don't know how much people listening know, like, with mergers and acquisitions, a lot of times you might get an initial investment from a venture capital, you might get a private equity investment. That's like a firm that has money and will invest in you. And then a lot of times that firm will then bring in a C-suite of their choosing that are good at mergers and acquisitions and flipping a company. And typically, the timeline is 3 to 5 years in a flip. And ideally, it's the 3 years. And you flip it to what's called a strategic, which would be another company in the industry, like Clorox, Procter and Gamble, someone like that. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
Post, in this case, Post Foods, which is a cereal company, which has a lot of interest in protein because they're losing out on like anti-carb messaging. They're losing out on not having enough protein in the morning, which is a lot of good data. And now that, there's companies doing high protein cereals and, the hybrid or protein bars for the morning, right? So that is the ideal, is that you flip the company in those 3 years. And during those 3 years, everyone on that C-suite is financially motivated, because on the C-suite, they get a piece of the action on the flip. I personally just got a small bonus, but for me, this was like going to med school and I'm going to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it that way. So, what did I have to work? 40 hours a week. What did I work? 80 to 100 hours a week, because I was a man on a mission and this was my dream job. And I was surrounded by the most brilliant minds in the world that are the best at what they do at acquisitions. So I knew if I learned from these guys and I stayed late and I picked up projects for them and I helped them and I listened to them and I went out to dinners or drinks with them after hours, I was going to pick this up, right? And so for me, that was my school. That was like the most important school, is what I want to do on the job. And that's on the job training. So I'm going to stay as long and as late as needed. And I became one of the most critical people. I was a director. And after a while, in all the C-suite meetings, they kept saying, like, well, who knows the answer to this? And it was always me, because I was picking up so many projects. And then after a while, they said, well, just invite Shawn to the C-suite meeting. And as a director, to be in a C-suite meeting was kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's how valuable I became, because I made myself valuable. And then from there, I could write my ticket. I had tons of companies that were reaching out, because supplements is hot. And two, so many companies are trying to get acquired. And what are they looking for? Someone who's done it before. And so I was getting big salaries, big offers, and essentially I could write my ticket. And I had a number of companies, just as soon as I helped sell Dymatize, reaching out to me saying, here's double, triple your salary. So that was a game changer for me.
Now, in that particular position that you put yourself in, being proactive, because that wasn't asked of you, Shawn said, I'm going to get this education and put myself in a position where I cannot be replaced. Did you take on other positions inside of your companies, or is this when you started your own company? What was next after that big acquisition and merger?
So I did end up, after I sold Dymatize, I did end up getting hired. Like I said, I had many offers. I ended up getting hired by this company, BioTrust, that went from 0 to $150 million in its first 12 months.
Whoa.
It was just a rock star company, and they gave me a crazy offer. And we did actually sell that company in about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that was great. And it's like, at that time, I was also creating, like you're saying, like my own companies on the side, a formulation company, an intellectual property company, because I was meeting so many people that were talented. Like, I have created these companies, but I'm an idea guy, and I'm a pretty smart guy, but I'm one of these jack of all trades guys, because I know enough science, I know enough business, I'm creative enough, I know enough marketing, but I'm not like the expert in any one of them. So I ended up hiring or working with people that are truly experts in all of those areas. And then that became the way that I could make all of these things happen. Otherwise, I'm just an idea guy, and the ideas go and die,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because a lot of people have ideas, even great ideas, but without the people to actually execute upon them, right? Like, that's like, we always think of Steve Jobs, but if there wasn't the Wozniak and all these other guys, it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
These things don't happen. And I understand that while it's cool to be the idea guy and the face and the guy who's on the podcast, a lot of these other guys are brilliant experts and are truly talented at the one thing, and are the best at the one thing. Like, I have someone who's the best at intellectual property filing, the best at study design, the best at regulatory work, and all of these different pieces that I'm not the best at. And so bringing these teams together in the background while I was already working with this other company to take them to sale, because that was what was next for me. I knew I didn't want to be a corporate guy forever,
Mm-hmm.
that this was my next piece. And after this, I'm going to start burning the ship and doing my own thing. That's what it's all about, is I want to do my own thing and create my own path.
Yeah, that's important that you were able to understand the important component of delegation and getting it into those subject matter experts' hands, and you organized it all. and you were able to miss that mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs and business leaders do of trying to carry everything themselves. Because what you did is went from a 24 hours to now I got 48, 72, 96 by hiring these experts to help you get to the next level. And as you were putting that together, I always ask the question, because now I know you're transitioning into your own business. Was there a specific event that happened to you, Shawn, that said, you know what? I am going to get out of this corporate. I am going to create my own path, that you went ahead and burnt the ship and went in? Was there a specific event that happened?
Yeah, even when I was at Dymatize, I was starting to work on two new ingredients that became very popular energy ingredients. And they were called TeaCrine and Dynamine. They're in many pre-workouts, energy drinks, fat burners, nootropics, all these kinds of things. And once I saw like that could go somewhere, and I was starting to see the traction in these ingredients start getting used in a lot of products, I'm like, this could be something. It's going to take a while to build out the experts. And I had a lot of tough lessons and a lot of tough legal battles and things like this, where I lost money, where I wasted a lot of time, where I got burned by different partners. But I did see that this could work and this could be mailbox money. And so I'm like, okay, like let's keep thinking about this, how I can create more ingredients, create an ecosystem to make this work. And I can do a lot of work on the front end, but on the back end, this will just continue to pay out. And so that was the idea. And that was me burning the ship at some point, is just how do I get this mailbox money? How do I have my own company? How do I create an ecosystem that is healthy and doesn't burn me, use me, waste me, etc.? And there was a lot of stumbling and mistakes and regrets along the way, but it all led me to where I'm at now. And I'm still learning and I'm still making mistakes, but I'm definitely in a far better place than I was at the time.
Awesome. Awesome. Now we're here. Tell us about your current business. I know you have a few of them, so please expand on them. But in this particular segment, we want you to tell us about your business, what you're doing, who you're trying to get in front of, if there's referral partners. Time to brag on it. Tell us a little bit about the businesses, Shawn.
Absolutely. So Zone Halo is a formulation company. That's how it started out, me just doing formulations for companies. But now I have a whole team, a regulatory expert, operations expert, quality control and quality assurance expert, funnel building expert. And so we literally do all of the pieces for a supplement company if you need them. We can do sourcing / supply chain. We can do the formulation, flavoring, the analytical testing and quality control, adverse event reporting, third-party logistics and shipping, packaging design and optimization. Like there's regulatory and getting into different countries across the world, how to optimize on Amazon and D2C, how to build out funnels and work with affiliates, like how to do studies and file intellectual property. And yeah, I'm definitely really proud of the flavor work, the science that we do, like how well these formulas work, how experiential they are. We definitely make sure that we're sourcing the best quality ingredients that have the studies at their proper doses and all that good stuff. So that's one company, Zone Halo. And then I have a company called Ingenious Ingredients, where we work on intellectual property as a team. It's an incubator, if you will, for some of these ideas. And that's where we do a lot of the pre-commercialization work, where we're, again, filing intellectual property, doing the studies, trademarks, all of these things, finding a partner to distribute the ingredient, those kinds of things. I have a brand just called Shawn Wells, ShawnWells.com, where that is all of the media stuff that we do. So we work with a lot of different supplement companies, biohacking companies to create content for them. I do a lot of educational content for my own brand. Again, I have my book, The Energy Formula, that's a biohacking and supplements book, mindset book. And then I do a lot of media appearances on stage, on TV, on podcasts, on radio, and all the things. And then I have a company that that is just around like equity holdings, and where I have these, chief science officer or advisory board positions, and I have probably 20 different positions like that, where I have a holding in these companies, and are often helping them go to sale and advising them, and in an M&A and doing due diligence and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, now that's a lot of businesses that you have going on, and a lot of different things. But I did want to focus on one portion of it. As I was doing the research on ShawnWells.com, you had some courses that were there, and it says that you can work together with different people. Can you highlight, what the courses are about, and how do you engage with others in that manner?
Yeah, I have courses just on proper supplement stacks, and whether you're looking for nootropic, anti-aging, detoxification, anti-depression, like men's fertility and virility stacks. I have a lot of courses around that, and certainly around mindset and biohacking devices, and what foods to avoid, how to exercise properly, all these kinds of pieces. And then with Zone Halo, we're developing out courses as well. That's around the idea of like, so you want to start a supplement company kind of thing. So there's a number of ways to work with me, whether to have me speak on stage, or have work with me as a formulator, have me be an advisor or chief scientific officer, in a fractional sense, and then certainly just direct to consumer, or B2C, if you will, working with me, just helping you out in terms of your physical, mental, and spiritual health.
Thank you so much for sharing that and highlighting that portion of what you have going on. And I definitely appreciate you sharing your journey, your story, telling us about your businesses and how things are going. And Shawn, I'm confident that over this time, you have acquired and nurtured a bunch of different business skills or best practices that have helped you achieve this success. Do you mind sharing with the audience that is watching today some of those skills or some of those best practices where they may add that to their mix and try to strive toward that same success?
I think if you're listening to my story, there's two things that are absolutely critical. One, making yourself available. It's not going to just happen. You're not going to, like, as I did say, stumble into it, but there's a lot of work in stumbling into it. It's kind of like the idea that Michael Jordan said, like, it's amazing how lucky I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I practice so much, I look lucky. You're putting yourself in the position for success. And I think a lot of young people might think this is crazy to, work these kinds of hours, or sacrifice today so that they can have something so great tomorrow. And for me, absolutely making myself available, having these conversations and listening. But that leads me to the second one that I think is so critical as well, is networking, speaking, emotional intelligence, the ability to connect with people, to listen to people, active listening. These two things are far more important than your technical skills. Far more. You can learn those technical skills. You can get that in college. You can get that from books. You can now get it from ChatGPT. But what's going to set you apart is how available you make yourself, and how driven and passionate you are as a result. And then how well you can network, connect with other brilliant minds, and bring them together with a vision. Those are the game changers. My most important asset, period, the end, is my network. Your network is your net worth. Absolutely the case. You will find that the most successful people have an incredible network around them of attorneys, of advisors, of investment experts, of whatever, like people even that work underneath them potentially. And so that's the key: is how do you have a vision? How do you translate that vision? How do you keep that vision in your mind and inspire others? And how do you connect with all these key people? So to me, those are really the two most important skills that I have above all the technical stuff, the biochemistry, the nutrition, the business background. All that's cool, but I could give that to someone else, and if they don't have the ability to make themselves available, and they don't have the ability to connect and offer up a vision and lead, it's not going to happen.
Thank you so much for sharing those important parts of what has helped you to be successful. Those soft skills are just a different, makes you different. It's just one of those things where, like you said, you can learn the tech, but if you can't, network and get on other people's level and have an understanding of them, then you can't go as far as you have. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that. And now I want to kind of get away from the business part of things. We know that there's so much going on for you on the business side, but I want to talk about Shawn. So Shawn, let's just say the businesses are continuing to flourish. Time and money is not an issue. What is it that Shawn would do with his time?
Well, what would I do with my time? I think my dream is to continue being an advisor for a number of companies as I look more towards. I'll never retire, but I want to stay plugged in and on purpose. But what work looks like will continue to evolve in my later years. I told you I'm 51 already. So, I think being an advisor for a number of companies, helping them with building out their deck, building out their vision, getting acquired, those kinds of things. And also working on mental health issues. I had a history of suicidal thoughts and depression and trauma and anxiety. And, this kind of thing is really, really important to me. And so I want to stay close to working on those issues. A number of entrepreneurs are feeling isolated, alone, depressed. So that's something that hits close to home with me, and even working on the science and the legality of entheogens / psychedelics around that is very important to me as well.
Yeah, so it's amazing that with all the opportunities at your fingertips, you're still focused on helping others. That should show how good of a person you are, Shawn, and how you're just focused on helping others. I definitely appreciate you sharing that. And if someone has questions about your journey, those business skills, your businesses, what is the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, ShawnWells.com, ShawnWells. So that's Shawn, ShaWN. And you can also go to Instagram just at Shawn Wells. But either way, just reaching out to me on my website or my socials, you can message me, and I would love to have a discussion for sure.
Awesome, awesome. We truly do appreciate you coming on today and sharing with us. We know it's not always easy to share those ups, downs, and all arounds, and we always honor our guests by giving them the last word. So, Shawn, please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
Grant yourself grace. If anyone talked to you like you talk to you, you wouldn't be their friend. So be kinder to yourself. But in the process, work hard, find your passion, connect with people, make it happen, but you don't have to beat yourself up to do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Shawn.
Yep, you got it. I had fun.
Awesome. Awesome. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.